Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. I'm one half of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, Mashal St. Patrick Hewitt, and with me as ever is my partner in crime, Santoki Nagulendran. Santoki, how you doing?
Yeah, all good, Mash, and we know it's a special episode when you're recording live from work, risking it all for the content. I was just thinking the last player we had coming on the show was Hayley Matthews, fresh off her century in Australia. And again, we've got another player fresh off his century, this time at Trent Bridge. So, Mash, do you want to let the people know who we've got on for this special interview?
100%. You can't read anything or watch anything about the West Indies in the last 3-4 days without seeing a video montage and an article, different people from Dominica itself essentially talking about Kavem Hodge and his maiden test century at Trent Bridge the other day. Fantastic moment, Santoki. I was there to see it. And it was just one of those, you called it iconic on social media earlier today. And some people might have thought, oh, that sounds a bit hyperbolic. But no, it was. It was in terms of any maiden test ton for any West Indian player is something to kind of herald and big up our chest and say amazing, well done, etc. So without any further ado, we're going to bring on our guest, as Santoki alluded to. It is Kavem Hodge, Dominica's own, West Indies' own. Let's bring him on the show. Yes, Kavem, how you doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Very, very good. I mean, first things first, if we jump straight into it, how are you? I mean, obviously the test match itself, West Indies went down to a defeat on the fourth day in the kind of final hour of the fourth day. But that notwithstanding, on a personal level, how are you feeling reflecting back on what's a historic test match for you?
Obviously reflecting on it, it has been satisfying. For a couple hours after the test match, and I was still pinching myself. Obviously, when you started playing cricket, scoring a test century is something that every batsman dreams of, and scoring it against England in England, it's a big thing. So for me, it's just a matter of understanding what I did and, sticking to that process and replicating it. Obviously, as a batsman, your currency is runs, and that's something that, I hold myself to higher esteem to, scoring runs for my team and, just putting my hand up when it's needed. So for me, it's just a matter of being consistent. I'm grateful, for the performances in the last test. Unfortunately, we couldn't, get over the line. So it's just a matter of putting that behind me and trying to replicate it as much as possible.
You know what? Going into it, firstly, so obviously there's been a lot made about Mark Wood bowling 97 miles an hour, the highest recorded in English show. As a batter, from a technical point of view, how are you dealing with that? Because you're essentially, there's part of the delivery where you're blind. You can't adjust your action or anything. So how do you face someone like Mark Wood? What's your thought process when you're facing him?
I think the most important thing is to watch the ball, because I think the problem starts once you take your eye off the ball. All that being said, it's easier said than done. And then just if you, as a batsman, if you have a trigger or whatever it is that you have to do it early and get it out the way. Because when that ball is hurling on at you, you don't want to be moving. You want to be as still as possible. So for me, that's just what I try to do. Trigger early, wait, and just hope for the best. Try and make good decisions. If I'm executing something, try my best to execute it as much as possible. And, sometimes you need some luck, when a guy is bowling 97 miles an hour. So thankfully it worked out well, and I'm grateful for it.
Go on, Santoki. Sorry.
Go on, Mash. No, go.
Oh, sorry, Kavem. So what was quite interesting to me as your innings was progressing, so I think after tea, I think Alec was maybe on 60 odd. I think you were on 50 odd.
Yeah.
And I had been up in the press box, kind of watching the pre-tea session or the second session. And I came down to watch the last session with the fans because there was something about it where it's just like, I think if not both, it just felt like one of you at least was going to get a century. And I was like, if this happens, I need to be with the fans when this happens, right? But I'm intrigued as a player. When is that moment, if it does come, where you're like, I think it's on for me today. I'm seeing it well. I think I can get a century here.
I think it's in England, you know, where the ball is doing so much. I mean, there's a ball that always has a name on it, and you know, it's like you're never really in. You know, or like playing in the Caribbean, you know, once you're going past 60, you know, you're home free. But in England, the ball moves about so much. You can never really say, you know, this is it for me. I think the most important thing is trying to stay in the moment and not to get too far ahead of yourself. You know, even up to 97, I was just telling myself, look, I need to keep looking at this ball. And, you know, I'm just fortunately that, you know, I played a good shot to a very good ball and I got 4 of it, you know, so there's never really an exact point where you say, you know, I could, you know, go all the way. You're really trying to stay in the moment as much as possible. Yeah, the longer you stay, the easier it gets. And, you know, that service is up for debate, but you know, as a batsman, the longer you stay, the easier it gets. You know, you make better decisions, you get accustomed to the pace and the bounce. So, you know, ideally, you just want to carry that as deep as possible, as long as possible, and stay in the moment.
A lot's been written of your kind of backstory in the last few days, links to Joe Root and playing in Australia. And there's been articles about the fact that you've got your chance probably a lot later than you thought your chance was going to come for the West Indies and so on and so forth. But just for the benefit of all the audience that are watching, whether back in the Caribbean or in the diaspora or internationally, what, as brief as you can, what was your come up in the game? Because it is worth pointing out to those who don't understand West Indies cricket as deeply that if you're not from one of the so-called big four, then it is harder technically to make your way through. You're not from Barbados, Guyana, Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago. So what was your kind of come up through the game, even before Australia?
Look, I think me going to university had a big part to play in it. You know, obviously the level of cricket in Barbados is, you know, it's really high. And being in an environment where, you know, excellence was pushed and, you know, everybody was just trying to improve. Once you're in that environment, you don't have a choice but to improve, you know. So the level of cricket, playing constant cricket, you know, in Barbados, I really think that helped me a lot. But yeah, I think I was really fortunate for that. And then, you know, once you're exposed to that level of cricket, then you go into the Windward Islands cricket and, you know, the different tournaments, you're able to do well. And thankfully, I was in a pool of players to be selected for the academy, and I did well that year at the West Indies under 19 level. You know, I got, you know, over 400 runs. I got about 15 wickets. So it really put me in good stead for that. And but yeah, I was grateful for it. You know, growing up playing cricket on the beach, you know, with guys bigger than me, it's just that's just where the love for the game started. You know, just playing non-stop cricket. I think that has a lot to do with, you know, with me honing my skills and learning the fundamentals.
So, if I'm not mistaken, you grew up in an area called Antrizal?
Yeah,
Antrizal,
yeah.
right? So Google's informed me there's less than 700 people in that village in Dominica. So
it's very small. Like everybody knows everybody. It's very tight. Even back home, you know, people ask me, you know, which part of Dominica from? I tell them Antrizal, and they be like, where? So you know, a lot of people back home don't know where Antrizal is. But that's, you know, just how small and, you know, remote it is. But you know, I think I'm looking back, I'm always grateful for growing up in a place like that. You know, the level of support and love, and you know, just the calm, you know, relaxed, easygoing environment. You know, it really helped mold me, you know, to become the person that I am today.
So, like when you're growing up in Antrizal playing cricket on the beach, at what point did you think, or was it not until you went to university where you thought, hold on, cricket could be something I could do on a professional level? This is something, an ambition I can aspire to.
It was always my ambition. I didn't think as far as professional yet, because obviously at an early age, you know, your head hasn't really wrapped around, you know, what a professional cricketer is. But you know, just going through the ranks, and every time you climb a different ranks, the under 13, the under 15s, the under 19s, you know, you just begin to like grow into it, and you just get more hungry and hungry and hungry, and then when you start and then eventually you play first class cricket and then you see what the environment is like, and you tell yourself, all right, this is something that you really can do, something you want to do and that you love to do. So I think it just keep developing and growing as I kept going through the ranks.
So you get a scholarship. I think you were the first West Indian to get a scholarship to the Darren Lehman Academy. What was that experience like going to Australia, and how did that develop your game? Obviously, you had guys like Joe Root alongside you. What was that? Was it 3 months you were there for?
Yeah, I was in the academy for 3 months. Look, it was amazing. Just the opportunity to be away from home and live in a different country, the different environment, how they go about doing things. I was 17 at the time, so it was a whole new world for me. Just to be being exposed to that level of coaching, the precision, everything, all the T's crossed, all the I's dotted, and then obviously being in the academy with guys like Joe and other guys who playing for their county right now. It was really amazing to see the level, even at that age. I think Joe was 20 or 21 at the time. And I felt like I was really decent in terms of feeling and batting, and then here comes Joe, he's just on a different level. And he was always earmarked to play for England. He was that good at a young age. But being in that environment really helped to expand my horizon of what's possible, my hunger and stuff like that. So it was really amazing. And I can really say that it has really paved the way for me to move my career forward in terms of my mentality, my attitude to training and hunger.
When because before the pandemic, I think it would be fair to say that you had hit a period of form prior to the pandemic. So the West Indies Championship, Super 50, the next edition of West Indies Championship.
Yeah,
I'm talking about that period of time, Kavem, because I feel like that's when you started to really turn heads in the region, both. But to be fair, with bat and ball, for people to be like, okay, Kavem Hodge out of Windwards, he could be somebody in the mix. And then the pandemic came, and obviously lots of upheaval, not much cricket happening, and it affected the Caribbean more so than people might realize. Outside of the Caribbean, cricket pretty much shut down until the bubble environments came, right? Do you look back and think, and obviously everything's meant to be, but do you look back and think the pandemic stalled your natural development and progression?
It's pretty hard to say no, because I couldn't, there wasn't anything that was about to happen that got stalled by the pandemic. It's like I was just continuing that process. It's not a situation where I was about to go on a test tour, I was about to play for one tournament. Things was just going along. I think it hit the Caribbean during midway of the first class season, and it ended. So it's like I was just going along the process, and everything just felt at a standstill. So I wouldn't say that it halted anything. I mean, it was a long pause away from cricket. Unfortunately, during that time, I think there was a camp to England. There was a squad to England, but I didn't quite make that cut. But hindsight, just looking back at everything, it's easy to say that everything happens for a reason. Who knows, if COVID had continued, I'd have probably made a team earlier, or not. So it's really hard to look back at it and say, this was supposed to happen. But I can just look at what's happening now.
Was there any point where you decided to focus on batting more than bowling, or is it just dependent on if a captain is willing to bowl you more, or so on and so forth? Because there was one season where I think you took 30 plus wickets, and I think it was in a first class season. And that's not to say that you've stopped taking wickets. Obviously, you do still contribute with the ball. You've done so in this test series. But did you make any conscious decision at any point in time to say, I'm going to focus on this batting, or is it both? Do you treat both the same?
No, I'm a batsman, hands on. But the thing is, I work hard at my bowling because I can bowl. I'm a firm believer in putting work and preparing. So it's always good to have something, and if it's not needed, it's not needed, then that's fine. But have it, and if it's needed, then I can bring it out And that's how I operate. So as much as I spend a lot of time in the nets batting, I would also work on my bowling, do spot bowling and stuff like that. In terms of the game situation, if the captain needs me to bowl, decent spell, a long spell, I'm able to do that. If he needs me to bowl a short spell, then so be it. So it's just a matter of me, whatever skill that I have, just try and holding on it. But obviously I'm a batsman, but not neglecting the bowling.
So in the first test at Lords, when you saw a bit of what Moti was doing, were you not tempted to go to the captain? Listen, there's an honours board, big honours board at Lords. Give me the ball.
I think I was really happy that Moti was bowling well. He's a really good bowler, and kudos to him. At no point I was like giving the ball skip. But if he gave me to bowl, and I would have bowled, no problem in that. But I just accept it, as is. If I'm not needed, I'm not needed. If I'm needed, I make it my point of duty to, do the job for the team, whatever is required.
Yeah, because we've talked a lot about your batting, but obviously in the Trent Bridge test, you got the wickets, big wickets at the time, Ben Stokes, Jamie Smith.
Yep.
So your bowling is definitely an asset. How much time in camps do you spend? How much time would you spend talking to like a Moti, going through techniques and tips, or is it a case of you're predominantly focusing on your batting while you're training?
Majority I just spend the time on my batting, but if we do have conversation, it's just simple, subtle stuff. He bowls a good arm ball, so I'll just ask him, how he hold it or how he grip it. But yeah, we don't get too much in detail about it. I just try and keep it as simple as possible. Bowling the ball at the stumps, trying to be consistent, and varying the pace a bit. I'm not a much big spinner of the ball, I'm more of a slow bowler than a spinner. But for me, that is me identifying what I can do and making sure that I'm, improving that aspect, and also even still trying to add, the variety of turning the ball. But yeah, for me, just being consistent, keeping the ball on the stumps, the old mantra, never changes.
I'm intrigued to know. Now you've had international experience in Australia, the 2 tests there, 2 tests with 1 more to go in England. You went on the pandemic tour to Bangladesh.
Mm-hmm.
You had training as a youngster. You were in camp as a youngster, obviously in Australia. This will really help fans understand what are the main differences between batting back home in like a first class championship or Super 50 versus then coming to England or going to Australia. Everyone will go to us, we're not cricketers, so needless to say. But the natural thing is fans will go, well, Australia's just more bouncy, or England, you just have to take a bit longer to but what, as a cricketer, what are the key differences between facing up versus Barbados at home in whichever island the game is played in the Windwards, or away in Jamaica, etc., then compared to the international situation?
There's a quite amount of things. First thing I think is the consistency of the bowler. I mean, back home in first class cricket, you might get 2, 3 bad balls, probably 4 bad balls in an over, and you can count on it that I'm gonna get a drive or a cut or a pull, and you can just wait on that. But international cricket, sometimes it hardly comes, like overs on it, and you don't get a drive, you don't get a cut, you don't get a pull. Just the other day I was talking to one of the analysts, and I was telling him, in Australia, the last test that I played in Australia, when I scored the 71, I didn't get to play 1 cut, not 1 cut. I batted like 3 sessions. So that's an attest to, the difference. These guys, they're relentless. They would come and they know how first of all, they know how they want to out you, and they come and they work that plan relentlessly, ball after ball after ball, and they wait on you to make the mistake. You understand? So another thing, I guess, leaving the ball, this is a big thing for me. Obviously, growing up as a West Indian, the pitches, are not that fast. They're not that bouncy. So if a guy pitches the ball on the wicket back of a length, you could just easily probably come forward and play, or come back and play, and not really have to worry much. But in England or Australia, the balls back of a length, they're going to bounce. And most of the time, more often than not, you tend to nick off. So as a batsman, from the Caribbean, we have to make a conscious effort to leave the ball on length. And as much as it sounds easy, it's very difficult. It's something that I've had to work on. And I knew it was going to be a big thing for me, first up heading to Australia. There's a lot of bonks. So it's something that I had to work on deliberately, like getting new balls, batting on the Martin, and just focus on when the ball is back in the wicket, leaving the ball on length, staying sideways, and, all these different things. Because, as much as you want to, do well, you have to understand, different condition. You understand? So, yeah, it's quite, and obviously there's a lot of research done into, field setting and stuff. The batsmen, the bowlers, the other team, they work you out. They know how they want to get you out, your strength. They know your strengths from first class cricket. A perfect example, the first test at Lords, I cut the ball to Pope. He was right there on the wicket at point. I couldn't believe it. Like, and then I came back to the dressing room. I was like, I couldn't believe it. Like, why would, they have a guy right there? And then, the analyst brought up something to me. He was like, come have a look at this. And he showed me like my stats of a lot of my dismissals and also boundaries in first class cricket and years back. And a lot of it is, square.
Mm.
I'm the batsman and I really wasn't aware of that, but they were aware of that. Whether it was they put him there, deliberately to take a catch or probably just to stop me from stopping the ball and run, but whatever the decision, it worked. So that's another perfect example that these guys, they put a lot of, study and research into their opposition, and they come plan for you and they're going to work it over relentlessly and wait for you to make the mistake. So that's a big difference, from the international to first class cricket.
You know what? Thank you for that. That's actually fascinating. I think a lot of people, when they listen back, to like, that was one of the best breakdowns we've got in a long time. But listen, Kavem, before I hand over to Santoki to kind of wrap things up, the other thing I noticed in the test match at Trent Bridge, I was amongst the West Indian fan base, there were a lot of Dominicans, right?
Yeah.
There was one guy whose name, I'm so sorry for forgetting his name, but on day 4, he wore a shirt with your face on it. And when he was proudly showing everyone that he had a Kavem Hodge shirt on and so on and so forth. But at one point, I don't know if it was you or Alec though, but have you got a nickname that people call you?
Most people just call me Hodgie.
Okay, so maybe it was Alec that they were referring to. But what was interesting to me is I was sitting amongst the Dominicans, and I was sitting there going, I wonder if Kavem and Alec can hear them from where we are, because they were loud, right?
Yeah, we were hearing them. We were hearing them.
And then once obviously you got your century, somebody immediately passed me the phone and said, look, the Prime Minister of Dominica is already messaging about what Kavem has done and so on and so forth. How much did your phone pop off once you got back to the dressing room?
It took. I didn't turn on my phone for a couple hours because I had interviews and I was just trying to take on everything. I'm the kind of person like I tend to detach from social media and other platforms at periodical times. That's important for me. So like before the test at Trent Bridge, I hadn't been on Instagram probably for like a couple weeks. That was just me, preparing for the test and just trying to get my mind in the right place. So, but yeah, it took me a couple of days to reply to all the messages and all the posts and stuff like that. Yeah.
Just a final question for me, yeah. So you haven't played Test cricket yet in the Caribbean. Is there a ground in the Caribbean which you particularly like as your favorite ground, or somewhere you're looking forward to playing, but you can't say Dominica?
Why can't I say Dominica? It's home. I don't know. I think like anywhere in the Caribbean is special for me. Barbados is a really nice place to play cricket. Obviously we don't have any test match there, but just playing test cricket anywhere in the Caribbean, it would be fine. Whether it's Guyana, Jamaica, Trinidad, you can relate to the fans. You basically grew up playing cricket in the Caribbean, so to come back then and play test cricket, it would be a great feeling. So anywhere, unfortunately, is not home, but it is what it is. Well, I guess I missed it by one test match too late. So.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, you got Trinidad and Guyana coming up against South Africa, so you can look forward to that. And just finally, I guess, obviously you've been in England for a month now, pretty much, or over a month. Yeah. Kind of outside of cricket, what have you been getting up to? What is anything interesting? Do you guys sightsee? Do you go out as a team? I know a lot of people play golf.
Yeah, a lot of the guys, probably just the fast bowlers. They play golf. we went to a theme park after the second day of Trent Bridge. After I got this, we went to a theme park and we went on a roller coaster and the different rides, and it was gut wrenching.
Everyone said celebration after your century.
It was just like a couple of us, Athena's, Mackenzie, and myself. You know, we went to the roller coaster and the different rides and stuff. Because obviously, you know, we don't have this stuff back in the Caribbean, so it was really nice to experience it. But outside of that, you know, I spend a lot of time, you know, just outside, like in terms of if I can find a gazebo around the hotel, just relax and read. You know, I love to spend time with nature. I guess that's a big reflection of, you know, how I grew up and where I grew up. So yeah, I love to do a lot of reading and just relaxing, you know, to enjoy nature.
Listen, Kavem, we won't keep too much more of your time, and suffice to say thank you for giving up your time today. We know it's a hectic schedule. The next test match starts in a couple of days at Edgbaston, and I know there's lots of prep to do around that. So just on behalf, obviously, of myself and Santoki and the West Indian fans at home and abroad, obviously, first things, as we said at the beginning, top of the show, brilliant and well done on your century, and hopefully there's many more to come, starting with Edgbaston.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Much appreciated. So, ladies and gents, that was Kavem Hodge. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us with that very quick interview there with Kavem Hodge. Hopefully that provided some great insights. Santoki, I'll let you have the last words.
Yeah, no, great insight. I think the aspect talking about the technical aspects of different pitches and how teams set up is fascinating, as you said. And yeah, we wish him all the best for Edgbaston. We'll be there. Mash, I think you're day 1 Edgbaston. I'll be there day 2 and day 3. So, you know, we rally for the third test, World Test Championship points at stake. So, you know, Caribbean Cricket Podcast will be there. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We'll see you very soon with some more content.
Most definitely. People on the way out, like, share, subscribe, all of that. And we'll see you very, very soon.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rule seems coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.